Okay, so if we had a consult, right, and they kind of came in and was like, hey, this is kind of the situation and then the issue like kind of going on, what would you advise them, right?
If knowing that so I think one of the things that would often happen is they would be like, well, yeah, this psych breakdown, and they would try immediately to cite this psychological problem. And one of the things I would say is, but then you had children with him, right? So I had a case once where the husband had this like a complete trial through a Montana DCF case, right? And it was that he abused her autistic child from a prior relationship, hitting with a belt, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And he was found to have abused the child, but they didn't take the child. So it's a very weird finding. And we ended up with all the paperwork because the other attorney on the other side tried to use it as a reason for why the child that they had together should be taken away from him. However, the child that they had together was born 3 years after this. So they stayed married. She stayed by his side, went through the trial with him. They hired an attorney together. 3 years later, through infertility treatments, extreme infertility treatments that they spent money that they do not have. These were not very high income, not incredibly high income people. Infertility treatments had another child. I was like, how can you say he's an abusive person if you went through infertility after this knowledge?
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I represented the dad, and he said, listen, I spanked the child. I did. And I left a mark on his bum. He's like, I was like, well, corporal punishment is legal in Florida.
Yeah.
I guess the argument was that he was autistic, so he shouldn't have been spanked. I don't think you should leave a mark. And he's like, I didn't intend to leave a mark. It's just, he didn't even say it was like, it got so mad. He's like, I didn't even realize that it was that hard. I didn't spank him after that. And this was a big deal. And it was actually because we brought him to the doctors because I was worried. And again, it was a bruise on his bum. Do I think maybe he did the wrong thing? Yeah. Do I think he's a child abuser? No. So
yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I hear this a lot where it's like they want to go after something, like you said, that happened prior to them even being together or prior to them even having the children. And then they want to use it against them. It's like, well, you kind of knew these facts. So I always ask them, like, oh, did you know about this?
Right.
And the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you expect to bring this up?
Or it to seem like you're making this argument in good faith.
Yes.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Or that it's essentially for the truth, for the lack of safety of the children. When you chose, after knowing this, to have children with them, you must have thought it was okay.
I see this with criminal convictions as well.
Yeah. And then the analysis comes if you thought that this person was an unsafe individual to be around your children, and you decided to have a child with them knowing this and let this person babysit while you were there, you are now culpable. That could give you rise, right? So we may be opening them up to some kind of liability in theory, right? A failure to protect. Like, ma'am, that means you committed a crime. If this is true, this must also be true.
Yeah.
Right? So it really stands on a large amount of logic.
I agree. Well, I feel like in this situation, sometimes like I've had people like that come to us for consults or things like that, where they're like, "Oh, he has a psych issue and he has this breakdown." But at the same time, like in this situation, Kim was kind of going through her own stuff as well. We don't know if she was taking medications like kind of he was or whatever was going on.
They were doing it together. A lot of times they're doing it together.
Water rises to the same level.
That's right.
Attorney Morse says all the time.
Right.
So I feel like sometimes I tell them like, hey, if you want to come in swinging, they're going to come right back swinging, right? If you want to file a motion for psych eval, motion for drug and alcohol eval, like all these crazy things, like right up front and straight, it's kind of like they're just going to come right back at you because you did the same thing with them.
Or the other thing is that it needs to be based on a recent event. It can't be stale. I had a case where